Welcome back to Untangled Philosophy. Today we'll explore how John Hick tries to solve the problem of evil with his soul-making Theodicy. The problem of evil is essentially the challenge of reconciling the existence of evil with the belief in an omnipotent, or powerful, and omnibenevolent, or loving God. It raises a big question. If God loves us and has the power to do anything, why is there so much suffering in the world? Some argue that the presence of evil suggests that an omnipotent and omnibenevolent God doesn't exist. Does suffering disprove God's existence, or could there be a reason for it? Let's see if John Hick's defense of God can convince us. To defend God's existence, theists formulate a Theodicy. This is a type of argument that aims to show how God and evil can coexist. One of the earliest Theodicies was developed by Irenaeus in the 2nd century, and it is from this that Hick develops his own. According to Irenaeus, evil is necessary for us to grow spiritually and morally. We are born morally immature, but with the potential to develop towards a moral perfection, moving closer to God in a meaningful way. It is evil occurrences that allow us to undergo this transformation. Without evil, our good actions wouldn't have any genuine meaning. Our growth towards God wouldn't have been earned. It would be like being awarded the trophy before you've even played the match. John Hick builds on Irenaeus' approach by adding or developing 3 key ideas: free will, epistemic distance, and universal salvation. Let's break these down, starting with free will. Free will, Hick argues, is essential for the most valuable kind of goodness. Sure, God could have made us inherently good, but then our goodness wouldn't really mean much if we didn't choose it ourselves. Where's the value in being good if you're programmed to do it anyway? For Hick, God's ultimate goal at creation was to make rational beings who can freely enter into a deep, meaningful relationship with Him. This is the richest possible intimacy with God. And it would only be possible to experience this relationship at this level of value under a system in which we possess free will to choose God and to develop our moral perfection through free choices. This is a fascinating approach because Hick has changed the focus of the question. Instead of asking whether evil disproves God, he asks, is the world a suitable training ground for moral development? God isn't looking to guarantee us a life of pleasure. That isn't what this is all about. He wants to cultivate moral saints. Hick's phrase for this process of maturation is called soul-making. The world is a vale of soul-making, not one that is designed for the maximization of pleasure. So what we really need to be asking is whether the process of soul-making justifies the existence of evil. Do you see where Hick is going with this? Pain and suffering are crucial components for the moral training ground. As Hick argues, pain is a necessary biological mechanism for urging us to develop ourselves. Where's the impetus to seek food if you don't experience the pang of hunger? Now let's talk about epistemic distance. This might sound complicated, but it's actually quite simple. For Hick, following Irenaeus, there must be an epistemic distance between us and God. Epistemic refers to knowledge, so epistemic distance is not a spatial distance, but a distance in knowledge and understanding. It means that God is such that we are not constantly aware of His presence, nor do we have immediate and undeniable knowledge of His existence. Epistemic distance gives us the space to make our own moral decisions. Without it, our free will would be compromised. For the soul-making process to be meaningful, it can't be obvious that God is right there watching and judging us. We can use this concept of epistemic distance to attempt to justify natural evils. For if God were to intervene and prevent an earthquake or a tsunami, he would be violating epistemic distance, compromising our free will, and invalidating the entire soul-making process. But what if you don't reach moral perfection in this life? Well, Hick says that the process of soul-making continues after we die. What's more interesting is that he believes in something called universal salvation. In other words, everyone will eventually complete their soul-making journey and be able to enter heaven. This idea is controversial. Not all Christians believe that everyone is awarded with heaven, and it raises a tricky question. If we all get to heaven eventually, can we really say that we have free will? What do you think? Does universal salvation undermine free will, or is it the logical implication of an all-loving God? Hick's Theodicy is fascinating, but it's not without its problems. I can't help but wonder how it is that God can create a system in which we all enter heaven without contravening upon our freedom. But he can't create a system in which it's not possible to be tortured to death because, oh no, that would violate our freedom. Am I being unfair? Another big issue is natural evil. Nick Trukakis argues that natural evil is superfluous for the soul-making process. Moral evil, that is, human cruelty, gives us more than enough opportunity for growth. If this is true, natural evil is an entirely unnecessary feature of reality and remains an unanswered question for Hick's Theodicy. And what about the suffering of animals? The brutality of nature, the starvation, the predation? It doesn't seem to give me much of a chance for soul-making, and presumably it's not doing a lot for the animals that suffer either. Hick will say that the enormity of human suffering is justified by the fact that we all go to heaven. But what justifies the enormity of animal suffering? Do they go to heaven? Presumably, Hick doesn't think so, in which case Hick fails to account for a huge proportion of earthly suffering, albeit non-human suffering. So John Hick gives us a thoughtful response to the problem of evil. His Theodicy reframes suffering as necessary for our moral development, but as we've seen, it struggles to be a perfect explanation. There are still unanswered questions about natural evil, and universal salvation, although a nice idea, creates issues. What do you think? Does Hick solve the problem of evil, or are there too many flaws? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.